All right, everyone, I welcome you all to what I deem as the Grand Exposition. And my name is Kyron Taylor. And basically, these videos will be primarily for disciples. And disciples are people who follow a religious teaching. Basically, everybody that utilizes the Holy Bible. And so these videos are primarily for the male audience, the men. And so at this particular moment, like when I'm speaking to females, I'll specify it. But right now, I'm only speaking to the men. And so there's any man that's on the earth except for Minister Willis at Sunlight Missionary Baptist Church. And so these recordings are for any male except for him. And so um, basically, all the disciples that utilize the Holy Bible, you have the Muslims, or basically the Islamists um, in America, the black people that utilize the Holy Bible with the Quran. And so you have the Muslims or the Muslims that utilize the Holy Bible. You have the people who that call themselves the Apostolic Church. Now basically those are the ones that are saved according to the Apostles' doctrine. And so you have them. And so then you have the nation of Israel, or basically those the Hasidic Jews, or the Jewish people. They only utilize the Old Testament part of the Bible. And so then you have the Bobo Ashanti people, or the Rastafarians. And so they primarily stick to the Old Testament, or the old parts of the Bible, really. And so then you have the black Hebrew Israelites. Like the black Hebrew Israelites, they utilize the Holy Bible. And also you have the Catholics, you have the Pentecostal, you have who else? The Protestants. And then you have an organization that is currently known as like the GD, or the Growth and Development Nation, street gang slash organization, but they are formerly known as the Gangster Disciples. And so and then you have people who are independent. They just sit in their basements and they read the Bible, and they are not proclaiming any religion. They just like to read the Bible. And then you have people that are like atheists and pagans that read the Bible just to see what they can contradict out of the Bible. So I pretty much think I covered everyone that utilizes the Holy Bible. And so basically, if anyone has a problem with anything that I'm saying or my interpretation, and they plan to challenge it, my number is 618-593-0614. And so I prefer that a person text me due to different carriers, cell phone carriers. And then some people go in tunnels, and there's transmission interference, and some people talk, their voice break up. So I prefer that people send me text messages, and that way we can have a clear conversation, and we can you send me a text message and I will respond via text message. And so you can send me a text at any time, day or night. That's the good part about sending text messages. And so basically, like right now I'm in East St. Louis. And so basically, if you live somewhere around the East St. Louis area, and like if you write your address down and you put your city on it, like Cahokia or Centerville, or either you put that same address and you put East St. Louis as an alternative, the parcel or the whatever it is that you want to come to your house, it's going to come to the same address. So that means that you are a suburb of East St. Louis. And like when people from East St. Louis go up to Chicago and different places, they say, "Oh, y'all from St. Louis," but actually, we are not from St. Louis. We're in a whole totally different state. And so, from my standpoint, well, the reason why I say they call it East St. Louis is because in Walnut Park in St. Louis, Missouri, is really Walnut Park East. So it's Walnut Park East, St. Louis, Missouri. And so at one point, East St. Louis was called Illinois Town. And so basically any suburb that's a suburb of East St. Louis is all Illinois Town. So there's like Cahokia, Edgemont, Washington Park. If you put your address down and put your city, and then you put your address down and put East St. Louis, and it comes to the same address, that means you part of East St. Louis. And so basically, East St. Louis and all its suburbs are basically Illinois Town. And so I technically call Walnut Park East St. Louis. They put East St. Louis on the wrong side of St. Louis. And so like the Mississippi River, it divides Missouri and Illinois. So we're in a whole totally different state. And so we're not part of St. Louis. That's why I like to say I'm from Illinois Town. You know, they're from St. Louis. And so basically in 2014, from the beginning to the end, you had a bunch of idiots doing a bunch of stupid stuff, you know what I'm saying, like killing people, you know what I'm saying. And so in all around the United States. And so they start you know, they sit there and they do statistics and they record what's going on. And so, you know, like St. Louis and Chicago, those are big cities and those are murder capitals. But they wanted to figure out how can we tie in the small cities, because there's a lot of idiots in small cities that's just killing people. I'm not talking about the most dangerous cities. I'm primarily talking about the murder capitals. I mean, they stick primarily to like killing people. And so at the end of 2014, the way they did it basically, or the way they have done in the past, and the way they're going to basically continue to do it, is they use a per thousand scale. So on a per thousand scale, what is the murder rate? And so to tie in small cities like East St. Louis, that's the way they had to do it. So from that standpoint, at the end of 2014, it's basically stated that East St. Louis got the most idiots in it, you know. So East St. Louis is actually the #1 murder capital in 2015, because at the beginning and to the end of 2015, they still got to calculate all these people doing all this, you know, all this killing, senseless killing and stuff like that. So at the end of 2015, once it's calculated on a per thousand scale, then that's the city that did the most killings. So in 2016, they could be labeled as the murder capital for that whole year. And so basically right now is what, October the 8th, 2015. East St. Louis, or basically Illinois Town, is the #1 murder capital right now. And so basically, you know, now this is where I've been living. And so basically I'm just, you know what I'm saying, talking about the Bible, the Holy Bible. And so there's a way that the Bible tells anyone who reads it how to study and interpret the Bible. And so the Bible says they're called lines and precepts. A line in the Bible is one verse, and the precepts are 2 or more verses together. So you have to be line upon line and precept upon precept, or the variations thereof. You can have a precept on a line, line on a precept, precept, line, precept, line, you know, the different variations. And so you have to study each subject on a comprehensive standpoint. And so once you do it from a comprehensive standpoint, according to line upon line and precept upon precept, you come up with the true understanding of whatever it is that subject is saying from a biblical standpoint. And so that's how a person is supposed to study the Bible and basically teach it. Even though you can't teach the Bible, but you still have to be guided on how to produce apostles' doctrine when you talk about the Old Testament and New Testament together. And so that's how it says. And so okay, then you have what the Bible know as degenerates. And so basically it's like if you go to the story of Gideon, and so Gideon had a whole bunch of people getting ready to go fight. The Lord Jesus told him to do it. It was Elohim back then, but we can call him Jesus right now. It doesn't matter. We speak English, so according to English, we can call him Jesus. but in Hebrew his name would be like Yeshaya. But okay, so Jesus told Gideon to get these people ready to fight, and so he had too many people. So Gideon said, "Tell the people that's fearful and afraid to go home." And so um, those are the ones that they're like crazy in their head. Like, I wish a Negro would, but they never do anything crazy. They always wishing a Negro would. They ain't never done nothing crazy. And so those are fearful and afraid. He say send them back home. And so then you got the ones that's actually scary. And so those are the ones that wouldn't bust a 20 to make change. And so he told all the fearful and afraid men, just men, to go home. I don't need them right now. And so then you have what's called the people. He told Gideon to take them to a body. He took them to a body of water and told them to sit here and look, watch them while they drinking water. And they drinking water, and he like, whoever, bend down on their knees to drink the water, you set them to the side. And so then you have the people who drank water and used their tongues like lapping like a dog. And so he told them, you set them to the side. And so if you had a person who lapped like a dog, drank the water with his tongue basically, like a dog will, he said if they bent down on their knees to drink the water, you set them with the people that bent down on their knees. And so basically, the ones who lapped like a dog, them was the agitated, the degenerate, crazy people. And the ones who bent down and got down on their knees, so you could have been a lapping water type person, or you were agitated in the head. But the problem was, you was sitting here and you was watching females too much to the point where you bent down and drank the water just like the females drank the water. And the Bible considers that as dainty, you being like a female. And so even though you were crazy in your head, you were still mimicking a female. And he didn't want them dainty men that had any feminine in them out there to fight with him. He only chose the 300 men. And so they known as the skeleton crew. And he said use them 300 to sit here, and you're not going to even fight. Just do something crazy like bust some glass and start yelling. And these people who you all are up against, they are going to run. And so that was a true story. So Jesus actually uses degenerates just as well as he used people that are formal and nice and a decent attitude. They're wholesome. He also used the opposite of those kind of people, like the crazy people. And so basically that's what that boils down to, because everyone likes to judge and some people don't like to judge and all that type of stuff. But if there is some type of judgment, like the dreadlocks and different things of that nature, still Jesus uses degenerates. And so these videos are basically primarily only for the apostolic people. So sometimes I say stuff to all men general, but it's primarily focusing on the men in the apostolic church, or the ones that's been saved according to the apostles' doctrine. And so like the Bible even entails that this was going to happen at some point in life, that all these people all these men in the churches were going to be exposed at one time. And so right now, this is the conclusion of the first video. I'll be producing more videos. And so just watch them.